It is time to put the academia back into My Hero Academia because the return of the remainder of Class 1A is finally here, and this is our first chance to see the post-war Class 1A, as they've pretty much just been an afterthought the last 20 chapters, but now they're coming back in the story, and they're coming back in strong because they are willing to do whatever it takes to bring back Deku, even if it means fighting him. My name is Andrew Nimsgood, and today I'm going to break down everything that happened in chapter 319 of My Hero Academia, which is one of my favorite chapters in so long because we're finally getting the extended cast back in the manga, which is so exciting, plus the tension that there already is between Class 1A and Deku and the upcoming possibility of a fight is so much fun to think about, and I can't wait to see where the story goes. Before I jump into the full recap, make sure to subscribe, leave your comments about the chapters and the overall story, and do whatever else you want because we do all kinds of My Hero Academia content over at youtube.com/class1a, so make sure to go and check that out for even more awesome content. But with that, let's jump right into chapter 319. The chapter picks up a couple days after Deku leaves UA, and it pretty much is a remainder of Class 1A having a conversation trying to put together all the pieces of why he left, and we pretty much come to the conclusion that Deku is working with Endeavor and his team. This comes to the idea because Bakugo, Todoroki, and Tokoyami all pretty much confirm that their mentors, Hawk's Best Genius and Endeavor, are no longer responding to them and pretty much just ghosting them at this point, so that Deku's probably working alongside them. And we learned that all of the classes at UA has been suspended, there's no graduations, they haven't become second years yet, and the Hero Corps pretty much is just on standby to help whenever they need it for security, protecting all the citizens nearby. So Deku actually hasn't fallen behind in school at all, which sets up the return of My Hero Academia actually becoming about academia after all this happened somehow, which is crazy to think about, but we'll talk about that later. Bakugo then brings up that Best Genius and Hawks were talking to Deku at the hospital, and All Might was there too. So if Deku really was so afraid to come back to UA, then All Might would have had to been the one to come back and leave all the notes for the students, so that they are actually working together. And pretty much the class is like, well, isn't that a good thing that Deku is working with All Might and the top 3 heroes, so we shouldn't have too much to worry about. But with Bakugo knowing All Might and Deku better than anyone at this point, that is actually the worst case scenario that he could think of. We want to now come up with a way to contact them, and Ochako just says, well, since Endeavor was a UA alumni, why not they just force the issue? And sure enough, with the next panel, a couple days later, Principal Nezu has set up that Endeavor come to talk with them, and it ends up pretty much being an ambush from the rest of Class 1A coming in behind Endeavor and trying to get more information out of him. Shoto straight up says, Endeavor, why have you been ignoring everything that I'm saying? What about us working together to go after Toya? Endeavor responds that Shoto's willingness to stop Toya makes him so excited, but Shoto doesn't feel the same way, and that not doing any action just doesn't make him feel good and wants to know why Deku is the exception right now. Shoto asks Endeavor to confirm whether All Might and Deku are working together, and when Endeavor doesn't really say anything, Bakugo's suspicions are confirmed, and pretty much says, well, even though it probably is the right call, he doesn't understand these two, and that them working together is going to be the worst possible situation. Deku never took into account for everything that's happening to him and his body when working on things, because that's what All Might did. So those two working together and never thinking about themselves and only worrying about the society and the people around them is going to lead down a troublesome path for Deku, which ultimately will probably lead to his demise. Endeavor basically tosses them the phone that has Izuku's location pinned so that they can track him down, and many say that they want to help him even though their relation so far has only been based off of what they have in school, and that Shoto says that not confiding in them about All for One is one thing that he can kind of understand, but expecting that just a single letter is going to put all of Class 1 at ease was something that was too far for him. Tenny declares that Class 1A, they will follow Deku no matter where he goes, and no matter how much responsibility comes with All for One, they will always be his friend and always be there to back him up. Endeavor says that the outside world is messed up, but Nezu comes in and reassures them that they're going to be ready, that he allows Deku to team up with the Big Three when he didn't want to return to UA and understand that the villains would attack him, but he also reveals that even though Deku doesn't feel like he can return to school, he really can, because they are prepared, that after the cultural festival, he assures them that there is now a UA barrier that will protect them, and then alongside with the heroes and everything, that everything at UA is going to be fine, and Deku can return whenever he wants. In the present, the rest of Class 1A arrives on scene to apprehend Dictator and free the civilians. As they run off, Deku asks why they're here, and Ojako just says that they're worried about him. Deku insists that he's okay and that they shouldn't be worrying about him and just to leave. Bakuro mockingly says that it's good to hear before seriously asking if he's smiling now. Deku kind of puts on his mask as he's on the ground, which we do see that fake kind of built-in smile rather than Deku's real smile. Kind of just a really good moment showing that he's not really smiling and that it's all just a facade that he puts on. And that is pretty much saying that he can't really truly smile until everyone has peace, and that he keeps moving forward with that kind of goal in mind. He demands that everyone gets out of their way and that he is going to go on, and Bakugo retorts, calling him an All Might wannabe. Tenya adds that they know that Deku's not going to be able to kind of be negotiated with in a normal way, so that they are prepared to fight, and that is a setup for chapter 320. If you told me even a week ago that My Hero Academia was going to have Class 1A fight against Deku, even if it maybe is possibly just Bakugo versus Deku 3, either way, I would not have believed you because that is not where I thought this was going, but it actually makes complete sense of that being how Deku is going to be pulled out of where he is. I thought that Stain was going to come in, but he has 19 other friends in his class, plus Class 1B, the Big Three. He has so many other people in the story that have been there and built him up to who he is now. So having them come back in the picture and pretty much fight him at this point to get him to realize, like, hey, you can't do this on your own. We are able to stick up with you, and that you are going to allow us to help you instead of continuing down this path of where he's left behind All Might, left behind the other big heroes, and he feels like he had to do it all on his own. And I love that because not only does it give us the background of what the hell is happening in UA with no one moving on to second years, Deku hasn't really fallen behind, and everyone is thinking what's going on in the outside world and being locked up, to now joining the fray and kind of being that idea of where now it is going to be Class 1A going up against the remainder of the League of Villains, going up against Shigaraki and One For All, and obviously there'll be other heroes on scene, but it just makes sense for Class 1A in the end to team back up and go against the League of Villains, and I feel like that's what's setting up. I have no idea what the fight's going to look like in chapter 320, who it's going to go, how hard Deku's going to go. Will he possibly severely injure one of his own classmates and that be what bring him back down to earth? Will Stain step in at this point, as we know he's in the shadows? We're not exactly sure how the fight's going to come to a conclusion, but no matter what, it's going to be amazing. And chapter 320 is going to be hopefully one of my favorite chapters ever. I say that every week, of course, but the series keeps getting better, and this chapter is no exception. Thank you all so much for tuning in, listening to this recap, and a little bit of my thoughts afterwards. I cannot wait for where this series is going, so if you guys want to join me in the journey as it's going along, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, because every Sunday we put out these manga recaps where you can stay up to date on everything that's happening in My Hero Academia. See you next Sunday.